I welcome you to the 22nd quality webinar series of Vinayaka Mission's Research Foundation, deemed to be university, which is being hosted by Vinayaka Mission's Homeopathy Medical College and Hospital. I take this opportunity to welcome our IQAC Director, Dr. Nanashekaran sir, who has been a mentor to our institution, who has been guiding us, who has been putting us all in the right path. We have known him for quite a few years. He has been giving his entire support to us in making sure that we have initiated and we maintain quality in all the constituent colleges. As we know that quality is a continuous effort, and it is done on daily routine basis, wherein we'll have to improve ourselves. And sir has been a special guide and mentor to our institution, because almost 1.5 years back, when I took up this IQAC, sir was the entire guide to us, and my IQAC coordinator also was less than 1 year. So we were all new to this, but sir was always there to support us. And even during this quality webinar series, when we wanted to get a resource person, when we wanted a topic, sir was there with us to help us. So let me thank you, sir, and welcome you, sir, to this event. I would like to welcome Dr. Somu. Sir, before welcoming, I should thank you, because very last minute call we gave, and you were busy with your own schedule, but still with an open mind and a smile on your face, you accepted and you took over this topic there. So first I would like to thank you, and I would like to welcome you to this session. Just a few words about you. Dr. Somu is from Kasturiba Medical College, a unit of Manipal University, and sir has also has been a professor. He is also a former HOD in the Department of Hospital Administration. Sir has been assessor, what we call as an external NAC assessor for Father Muller's Charitable Trust. And sir, one good thing that we all knew about you was that you said, I can speak on any topic, you tell me what topic you want. So we find rare people with such resource knowledge. So thank you very much, sir, for accepting and taking our invitation and being here on your precious time. I would like to thank my IQAC coordinator, Dr. Santi Deepan. As I said earlier, less than a year when he took charge, he was almost only 5-6 months with us. But he took it as a challenge, and he said that, sir, I will do it, and he has been doing it. He is a coordinator for CME, and I told him that whether both will be hectic, but still he said, no, I will handle both, sir, not an issue. And past 10-15 days, he has been around searching for a resource person and a good topic, so that we make this webinar series a successful one. So a special welcome and a thanks to my IQAC coordinator. Thank you, sir. And all the IQAC coordinators of all the constituent colleges, the participants from all the constituent colleges, we welcome you and we thank you for taking part in our webinar series. And last, all my faculty members who have stood their way with us, who have been a part of this quality series we have been on this exercise for almost 10 years. So I thank all my faculty members for joining and welcome you all. So thank you very much. And I request Dr. Nanashekaran sir to share a few words before we start. Sir, please, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sabapati. A warm afternoon to all of you. It's really a privilege to be here on this web platform. We are on the verge of now completing nearly one cycle of our quality webinar series. All our constant institutions have hosted one each. We started this when we went for our NAC assessment during 2021, and this was planned every alternate Saturdays. Because COVID taught us how to get in touch with each other through the IT platform. So we also thought, why not use it for updating and upgrading our own faculty on the various quality happenings across the globe. So we started in a small way. Now it has become a common calendar event in the university, and I am happy to note Homeopathic Medical College is hosting this webinar. And I take this opportunity to congratulate the principal as well as the IQAC coordinator for coming forward to host this webinar, and also for identifying the right person for this quality webinar. If you look at the topic for today, though it seems to be on criteria 5, which is student support and progression, as an education institution, we have to take care of our students who are the main stakeholders. So though NAC is laying emphasis on support to the student and how we track their progress and how we support them to progress either into their career or even higher education. One aspect which all of you will agree, specifically in health sciences institutions, tracking the progress of your students is really a difficult task. Unless you have a very strong alumni connect, this progression tracking is a real trouble. Not only in our institution, it is everywhere across the country. Even when we look at UGC's database, when they ask for data, there also we find it difficult to give them data on student progression. So when we look at this progression, a small incident comes to my mind. There was a employee interview was going on. It all went on well. The employee, the candidate was answering everything well, and this interviewer, he was repeatedly telling, forget everything you have studied in your college, and this is going to be a new career for you. So you forget everything, whatever you have studied in college. And this guy, he clearly says, sir, I seldom went to college. And this interviewer, he said, then you are not qualified, please go out. So this is where we stand. We are looking at students who are really not fully interested in gearing up for facing the society or even going for a career. We are looking at only the curriculum and syllabus, what has to be given to them, and not beyond the curriculum and syllabus. So unless we equip them or make them fully employable to face the society, we will be failing in our duty. So that is the reason NAC has rightly put in the support and progression together. Meaning to say indirectly that unless you give the right support to the student, his progression will not be sufficient. So it's wonderful that we have this topic today, and our speaker for the day from Manipal University. Our team, headed by our Vice Chancellor, visited Manipal just last week. We had a 2-day interaction with the top management of Manipal. It was a great occasion for the team which went there. And hopefully we would like to have further interactions with Manipal. And I thank everyone for this occasion and enjoy the webinar. Thank you.
Sir, Dr. Somu sir, I think the platform is yours. You can share your views, sir. Then we'll get back for the question and answer session, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind introduction. And I think, yes, as I agree with both you as well as the director, which said the one part of it where we said that quality is a continuous process. Yes. And then also the director has said that the alumni is very strong. I mean, the alumni connect is what that makes the difference. So I'll just take 2 minutes. I'll just share my screen and then we will start. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right, so let me start my presentation. My presentation overview, I'll give a little brief introduction as to why accreditation is important and the need for accreditation. Then we also look at different accreditation bodies because we are speaking about the healthcare education aspect. Yes, but then there are other accreditation bodies also. Then I will briefly touch upon the design of NAC. And then, of course, we speak about the 7 criteria of NAC. And then I directly go into criteria 5. So quality assurance is a term that is new in education. When you talked about quality in healthcare, people, in fact, what happened was when you talk about quality in healthcare itself, people took it as a new perspective because all that people just felt was that the patient who comes into the healthcare system has to get better, and then that was quality care. But then the same thing, what happened is when you talk about quality assurance in a education industry, probably it was not heard of because most of them, yes, they joined various institutions and the only outcome of that was that, yes, during that defined period, I have to study and then I come out of the program and then probably get a job and then of course continue with the livelihood. But then here we talked about quality assurance in education primarily comes into focus because there are most important aspect is there are a lot of education industries that have come up, mushrooming, so a lot of competition. So that's where you need to ensure and see that your institution will be a little ahead than the rest of them. So that is where we talk about quality assurance. And that is why we need to be focused as far as quality assurance. And does it really improve quality? Yes, it does really improve quality because what happens is when we talk about quality assurance, we are actually talking about a holistic approach. As we were thinking that, it was just all these years, it was just teaching, curriculum revision once in 5 years, 10 years, and then the person will leave the organization and then he goes to work. And then another aspect is that we don't look at the overall development of the person. So that is also there. And moreover, many a time, if you look at the whole thing, the syllabus would have been revised already, all the same syllabus would have been followed for the last 5 years or 10 years. So by the time the newer batches of students who come out into the industry, it may be industry oriented or some of the things that they study will be almost outdated or backdated. So in order to overcome those things, we need to look into quality assurance aspect and we need somebody which will actually look into all these things and that we get a holistic approach of the entire a holistic approach when it comes to education. Okay. So basically, when we talk about accreditation, I will bring to your notice another total quality management. So when we talk about accreditation, so we are looking into total quality management. So the point is that it's not just focusing on certain aspects of areas, but we want to see the overall improvement. And that's why when we talk about accreditation, it invariably talks about the entire aspect, total quality management. TQM is actually a Japanese concept. And in fact, what happens is that this particular TQM, total quality management, first came into the industry, not the education industry, but what happened into the manufacturing industry, where they felt that there should be zero defects. And so that was how the total quality management systems were developed. A lot of ISO and other things came up based on this system of total quality management. And then later it came into the healthcare industry, let's say, and gradually it also went into the educational industry. So any business or organization that is subscribing to TQM have to be audited. So that's very important. They have to be audited by an appropriate organization. So then only what happens is we can give accreditation. The main difference between an accredited body and a certification body I will bring at this time. So when we talk about accreditation, basically it will give certain guidelines. An accreditation body is basically, it has given certain guidelines, and then it will see whether you map up to those particular guidelines. In a certification body, it only says that it will ensure you that you are doing the right thing. But in an accreditation, it again forces you to ensure that you live up to the standards of what has been defined. Okay. So that is how an accreditation process is a little different when you just talk about only quality aspect. And this particular accreditation, there are various accreditation bodies. So of course, what happens is some accreditation bodies that are recognized in India, you have NAC, you have NBA, you have certain accreditation bodies for healthcare and other things. So different institutions have got different countries also have different accreditation bodies. And more important aspect of this whole accreditation process is that it is a voluntary process. Nobody has forced the accreditation part onto people, but it is always good to have an accreditation body, because it's always said that when you have a tool that will look into your overall functioning and make you improve, then why not go in for it? So that in that way, what happens is that it is a positive thing to look into an accreditation aspect. And as a matter of fact, it is used as a business, as a marketing tool in industries, yes, but in the educational aspect also, because as I told you, there are multiple educational industries that are coming up. So we have to stay one step ahead. So it would also not primarily marketing as such, but the fact is that it will ensure that good quality output will be able to come when you take the accreditation process. Then what was the need for accreditation in education? Now, in fact, what happened was much before this, we would think, I'll just take you back historically for some few years back. What was considered as a good institution? What was considered as a good institution was that you did a good teaching work, and then your students got good placements. You're considered as a top ranking institute. This was the minimum criteria. It did not focus. The only focus during those days was that it only talked about what is your, let us say, pass percentage, or your, basically it talked only about pass percentage and other aspects. And then it also, over a period of time, it failed that concept of whether the person is getting adequate job, whether he's getting a good job, whether it's placements, all those things were slowly lost over a period of time. And that is where this particular accreditation part actually comes into picture. So most important thing is that in higher education part, when you look at this, the need for accreditation was, on the first concept was that asking friends in other institutions to review their course and exams. You will probably look that those institutions which are currently not accredited still follow the same old pattern, wherein what happens is you have a board of studies, and then in fact what happens is a board of studies where you will probably frame certain guidelines, and then after you frame those guidelines, you give it to certain people, experts in that particular field, and then after that you will be, and then you make the revisions accordingly and implement. Now the whole problem with this is that whenever we identify people, we are not looking into the the quality of output. Basically, we are just saying, okay, nobody else is there, we know these people, and that's how we. So this is not correct when it comes to accreditation part of it. We are doing a good job, but we are not getting a standardized output. That is the most important. And the second aspect is that about the incompetence. Many a time what happens is reviewers. Now reviewers will come, we don't know. So we call few people, we are not aware of their industry expertise or their academic expertise. So that also becomes a problem of incompetence. So that is another aspect. So the first thing is corruption. When I mean to say is that there is a sort of an understanding. Okay, I see generally it happens like this. We do feel whenever we go for examinations and other things, we invite examiners from a particular institution, and then we go there for the exam. So it is all, we always try to, I will not say that it is wrong, but the fact is we always try to create a win-win situation. You do good for us and we will do good for you. Okay, so but then when it comes to this reviewing the curriculum and other things, that is not a good practice. So that is then lack of seriousness. People do not take this reviewing. Actually, if you look at this whole system of, let us say, the educational process, designing the curriculum, looking into the credits and other aspects. Of course, now we have we call that as is that curriculum-based, outcome-based education. So people do not really look into those aspects. They just review it and then they will give it. Okay, fine, this is it. And many a time, some people feel that if you just look into 1 or 2 points, if I give, that is more than sufficient. But that is not the thing. You have to review the curriculum. You have to look into the thing in a holistic approach. So lack of seriousness will definitely be there because people will not be able to look into a holistic approach. And then again, there is lack of transparency. So lack of transparency means what happens is that, yes, I'm not telling that all of them are bad. Certain institutions may look into a good, and then certain institutions may not be following the appropriate method. So now what happens is that you will not be able to get a standardized, you will not get a standardized output. So in order to ensure that the standardized output is there, you need an accreditation process which will remain as a standard across all institutions, whether it is a small institution, new institution, old institution, whatever be the type of institution it is. The overall thing is that the outcome will be measured against standardized tools. So that is very important, and that is where the accreditation stands out. Now, as I was telling you, there are different accreditation bodies. Now, if you look at this National Assessment and Accreditation Council, so invariably NAC stands for Assessment and Accreditation Council. Now, the other thing is that, yes, it is assessed based on a 7-point criteria. I'll go into that later. Then this is one body. The other bodies which also support education is the National Board of Accreditation. This is for the technical bodies. Now, when you talk about NAC, NAC is primarily for universities, or it could be for institution, any institution, either a health science institution or a technical board. But when you talk about NBA, that is National Board of Accreditation, it is primarily for management and technical institutes. Okay, the criteria are the same almost, but then the ranking scale and other aspects are little different. Apart from that, you have 2 other accreditation bodies which are specifically like National Accreditation Board for Hospitals. So this is specifically only for hospitals. It doesn't look into the educational aspect. It only talks about the running of the hospitals. That is the workflow, the procedure, the process that happens in a hospital setup. So that also, like how, what would be the quality of care the hospital, I mean about the patient in a hospital, and also what are the various facilities that are available. So the satisfaction level. So all these aspects are addressed, and also competence level of the healthcare person. All these things are addressed in the NBA accreditation body. Now, what happens is all these accreditation bodies have got a certain guideline. Now, when we talk about NAC, NAC is something that there are 7 criteria. Based on the 7 criteria, what has happened is that the overall score comes up to 1000. Okay, there are different parts of the criteria which have been given different values, and then overall it is assessed on a score of 1000. Similarly, NBA has got 10 criteria, and 10 criteria, all the 10 criteria, it is again assessed on a score of 1000 with a lot of weightage given towards research, innovation, and those aspects are given more weightage. Then when you talk about NABH, it has 10 chapters, okay, addressing all the issues related to medication safety, related to HR, related to infection control, and so many other things. So in total, around 10 different standards. So another important one is the National Accreditation Board for Laboratories. So that is again for healthcare system of labs, whether with the standardized output. In all these things, if you look at the accreditation bodies, they aim at only one thing, and that is they look at bringing out a standardized output. So it is asking you to capture certain certain data and to live up to certain standards or live up to certain expectations. So that is the main thing as far as any accreditation body means. Now, a little bit on the historic part of when NAC came in. So NAC is relatively new, I should say, though it is quite a number of years old, and probably they want to reframe it now. But the point is that it is relatively new. If you look at this, it's an autonomous body established under the University Grants Commission. The purpose was to assess and accredit institutions of higher education. So NAC is primarily for higher education. As I told you, it basically either it could be a higher education, it could be a professional college, or it could be a university part. So anything. So it helps to assess that. And this is a followed, or its formation is based on the recommendations of the National Health Policy, which happened in 1986. Okay, and so what happened was, after this particular thing, it got formed in 1994. Okay, so based on the National Education Policy of 1986, NAC body was formed and established in 1994. Okay, headquartered at Bangalore. So probably what happens is it's there over the last nearly 25 to 30 years. Now, when we look at this, why this NAC body has been formed, the core values of the accreditation framework, okay, of the NAC is basically it helps to contribute to national development, fostering global competencies among students. So what happens is, now when we look at this, our educational output, the educational output given from various institutions within the country, or the various institutions running within the country, there what happens is that they want to ensure and see that the students who study and they come out, they can be fostered into a competencies among global competencies. Okay, they want to have these students having a global competence. Okay, so that is the output they want to ensure and see, that the students here will be able to compete with foreign universities. That's the most important aspect. Inculcating not only studies part of it in terms of competencies, but also to inculcate a value system among students. So this is where you look at the core values. It talks about the overall development of the student. It is not just that the person studied, he got good marks, he attempted well, he was able to get the full marks, and then he is topper of the class. No, not only that, it also talks about the overall development of the. So inculcating a value system among students, promoting the use of technology, okay, because of this information communication technology. So promoting the use of technology specifically in the modern times, specifically if you look at the latest, we have now all gone into digital mode. All that manual system is gone. We are now more happy with smartphones. We are more happy with computerization of various aspects. Yes, well, work becomes easy, but of course we also need to know and understand technology. It's not just that it is good for us that we have adopted it, but the fact is that we should also know how to use it and to improve things. So that promote the use of technology is very important. And also there is a last point is that the quest for excellence should also be there. So quest for excellence, we have to, anything that we do, we should always we should ensure and see that we compete for excellence. Now, how does an accreditation process? Okay, now what we spoke of all this time was the core values of why this accreditation body was formed, what was it aiming at, and other things. But now when you look at this, why the accreditation helps an institution. Now the best thing is that who knows, or it is something like we have put all these things on the level of the institution itself. Each institution knows its SWOT. SWOT means we are aware of our own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. Somebody else may not come and tell us that, oh, this is your weakness, this is your strength, or these are the opportunities. We are able to develop, or we are able to identify our own strengths, weakness, opportunities, and challenges. So it is something similar to the SWOT analysis. Instead of the threats, I put it as SWOT analysis. So any threat is just seen as a challenge. So we have to overcome that challenge. So then the other aspect is that the internal areas of planning and resource allocation. We are best. So accreditation helps us for evenly distributing. As I told you, it has a comprehensive outlook. So whenever we plan for resource allocation also, we will ensure that all areas get equal attention. There is a possibility that if you do not follow an accreditation system, there is a possibility that you focus on certain aspects which you feel, or which the management feels that it is very good, and then probably what happens is they will be neglecting certain aspects. So maybe for the overall growth and development, every part is equally important. So this sort of an accreditation process basically helps to bring in these resource allocation also. Then funding agencies look for objective data. That's another important aspect. Specifically, and specifically when we talk about student support or other aspects of this, I'm looking at research methodology and enhancement of research, collaborative work, and other things. Whenever we look for that, whenever we want our institution, we want our staff, faculty, and students to work on more of the grants and research papers, funding agencies, when they come forward, they look for objective data. So it is always better that we have to maintain. One of the biggest things that I find in our process is that we do not like documentation. We are a little bad when it comes to documentation. I'm talking in every field, in every aspect. What happens is documentation is very poor. Whether you talk about it in the healthcare field, you talk about medical records also, the documentation is poor. You talk about any other aspects, we do the work well. I'm not saying no, but we fail to record those things. So this accreditation process will actually help us to ensure and see and make a practice of recording all these things that we are having. It is very important because without objective data, we cannot convince. Initiating innovative and modern methods of pedagogy. So even that part of it comes, it doesn't come under student support system, but it does come under when you talk about curriculum development and other things. So initiating innovative and modern methods of pedagogy. So this particular accreditation also helps bring about a change in the way that we teach. Because what happens is we know about blackboard teaching, and then later came OHPs, and now today we talk about LCD projectors and other things. We talk about PPTs and other things that we do. But in fact, what has happened is that if you look at the COVID time has made, though teaching was a barrier during the COVID time because of lockdowns and other things, this online system, online platforms has made it so very convenient. So this was something that was not discovered much or not used, but the COVID has forced upon us, and that we are not able to leave this now. So of course, this online mode of teaching and developing has become very good. In fact, so this is also one innovative method of pedagogy, you can say, not apart from the routine method of teaching. So these aspects are also there. Then it also helps us to identify, it gives a sense of identity and direction. So all these, and more importantly, the accreditation process also looks forward for scope of intra and inter-institutional interactions. In fact, what has happened is it talks about interprofessional activities more so, and not only interprofessional within the institution, in intra-institutional activities also. They look for research collaborations within the other similar type of institutions, or maybe a foreign collaboration and other things. So there is scope for all these things because all these have got certain points in the accreditation process. Much before this accreditation, if you don't, if we had not looked into the accreditation aspect, now you will see that most so everything is very a tubular approach. I know my department, I know how to go about my activities, but I don't want to interact with a neighboring department. I don't want to know what activity takes place in the neighboring department. The fact is that in our era of specialization and other things, we are failing to understand the other departments. So that is also very important. We do need the support of other departments because then only we can grow comprehensively. Any education system, for the education system to come through properly, what happens is there should be good amount of collaboration and interprofessional interactions. Am I going too fast? I hope all of you are able to follow.
No problem, sir. Perfect.
So now we will talk about the 7 curricular aspects of ACT. So the first one is curricular aspects, teaching, learning, evaluation, that comes under 2. Research, innovation, and extension, so that is 3. So look at the process, the point, the criteria in which they have given also, like what happens is there is weightage more given to teaching, learning, evaluation, research, innovation, extension. So these 2 are given more weightage, even in terms of, you give those weightage marks and other things, there is more given to this research, innovation, and extension. And the other aspects is your infrastructure, learning, student support, governance, leadership, and management. Okay? So all these things are various criteria. And in fact, the last one is innovations and best practices. That also is there. Now, of course, what happens is you have to finish the first 6, and then what happens is you get into innovation and best practice. Then only the in accreditation process, as I told you, that last part was to excel. You're going for excellence. So what happens is if you are able to go through all these 6 parameters of 6 criteria properly, then automatically the 7th one will take this. Now, what they have done is that NAC has given this particular thing for universities, autonomous colleges, and affiliated. The only aspect is that, see, as I told you, the marks distribution, if you look at the whole thing, research, consultancy, and extension is given maximum marks. Teaching, learning is given maximum. Rest all maybe in a range of 100 to 150. But if you want to score maximum marks again, or whatever it is, see, the fact is that you do well in research, consultancy, and extension activities, or in teaching learning process, the process of designing the curriculum and developing what is that this outcome-based learning, outcome-based education. That's what is the current progress. So if you are able to map the COs, POs properly, then what happens is your teaching, learning, and evaluation becomes good. I'll just touch upon, I will not go too much into the teaching, learning, evaluation. The modern concept is that what happens is that the student should be able to attain practical skills. All this time we only thought about there's something called as a recall, and then there is something as understanding it. Third one is demonstrate. So now what happens is when we complete our teaching, learning, evaluation in any discipline, we should ensure that the student has knowledge about it and is able to finally demonstrate something. So only then, or demonstrate and independently handle the situation. So that is where the person is completely fit to go out of the institution so that he will be a useful thing in the society. So that's how they say that teaching, learning, evaluation, your entire aspect of curriculum should be addressing all part of it. Many a time, if I stand corrected if people don't agree with me, but I'm sure that the current or the just the previous aspect of it, it was only to look at, okay, this person is knowing something and doing something, that is fine. Whether it is relevant to industry, whether he has got the expertise and the skill has not been looked into before passing out of the institution. So now what happens is we have to see that the overall development of the person has to take place. So that is the criteria, all the 7 criteria that they have been given. And now coming to the 5th one. Now, before I get into the 5th criteria and other aspects, now we will discuss is that there has been few changes that they have brought in. So now again, when you look into the criteria 5 is primarily got to do with student support and progression. Now, when you talk about student support and progression, what are the activities that you do towards student progression? Here they have changed certain metrics. Okay, so then average students passing progressing to higher education, they also feel, because what happens is many a time you see the person passes out of the institution, then he feels that he is free. He's no more he's no more learning anything. It is not possible because over a period of time in the process where things are changing rapidly, he may have to upgrade himself. So the thing about students progressing for higher education, what they get is not sufficient. Probably nowadays what happens is people need to go, just that basic degree is not sufficient. They have to go for a PhD. And also that people say that once you do a PhD, it is basically you are helping the student for research aspect, okay, research and progression. And the last part was this 5.3 was got to do with the number of awards and medals. So that was some changes that is there. But now going to this NAC criterion 5, the first part is 5.1 student support. Now I will just make it a little interactive. Now what all comes under this? It is left to the institution to understand what is student support and take it further. Now you tell me student support, what all may come? Anybody? What all can come under student support? I mean, you can make a guess, there is no problem. So that this is only a thing that when you talk about student support, these are the various activities that come under student support. And then how will you identify? I mean, how will you capture that data? Anybody? When you talk about student support, basically every student who comes, okay, now when we tell that education is a right, every student has to get the thing. So how do we support the student? What could be the common problems for the student? Anybody? Most important thing is that you can, I mean, there are different ways. One support is that it talks about student welfare measures in terms of scholarship. So when we talk about scholarship and freeship and other things, what we can do is that there are several activities. One aspect of it is scholarship, not just that scholarship as such. There are different ways, different institutions will try and identify student support in different ways. For example, if the institution is having its own, let us say, a selection process. Okay. Sometimes what happens is when you talk about management institutes and other things, they have their own CAT score, MAT score, and other things. Okay, based on that, there is a cutoff. Or in case the institution itself is conducting a examination, and based on which it is selecting students on merit, then how do you help in student support and progression is you encourage those people by, let us say, one part of it is, it could be fee concession. Okay. Another aspect of it is that you try to say that waiving of the fees. So that can be a continuous process. Let us say a person comes, some institutions practice this. So I just wanted to inform, some institutions practice this. What they do is that if that person does well, then that person gets scholarship for the next 3 years or 4 years, whatever the duration of the course. If he is not doing well, then he doesn't get. So this is one method of student support. It could be in the form of scholarship. Some other people, what they do is that they do a fee reduction. Now, let us say the person has made the qualifying exam. He has met the qualifying exam. And then in that qualifying exam, everybody above 50% is passed, is it not? But then there, what they have done is, they say students who have qualified for this program and who are above 80 or 85%, what happens is they give them a fee concession. They will say, we will waiver off. Let us say, if you say an average fee structure for a year, maybe if it is around some 1 lakh rupees, then they will say, we will cut 25%, you pay only 75%. That's it. So that is also a student support. These are all various methods that I'm just trying to say how an institution can develop this student support. One aspect of it is this. Other thing is to look after the students' health benefits. So that is also student support during the progress or during the time that the person is there in the institution. Health, providing health insurance, health benefits to the student is also important. So that is one other thing. Apart from that, any other? You can also ensure student support during the progress. See, what happens is there is a particular concept where it says that from a level of competence to a level of incompetence. And students invariably have that. Don't you feel? Let's say in the first year, the person is done very well. And then by the time he goes to second and third year, he may not be up to that, what he was during the first year. So in such cases, what can the student, what can the organization do? Can you arrange for, there's something called as slow performing students or slow performing and quick performing. Now in both ways, you have to support both of them. If it is a slow performing student, then you will have to counsel them. You may have to add coaching classes for them. Now, the biggest thing is that I'm repeating again and again, we may do all these things, but we do not have evidence to show. That is the biggest problem that is there. We are very poor at documentation. As a matter of fact, we may be doing all these things. We are counseling students and we may be recording certain things. We are giving them improvement exams, coaching classes beyond the student classes and other things. All these things are being well done, but nothing is documented. And because we fail to document, we will not have proof to use all this. So that itself is one part of it. Then in case the person is a fast learner, you should not just leave it. Then he will think that, okay, I have completed everything, but I know better than anybody else. No, there are two fast learning and then there are two slow learning. So for fast learning students, again, you have to encourage them, trying to give them more activities, asking them to participate in certain activities, innovations and others. So all these things are coming under student support system. Then another aspect is that the student should also have a placement cell, because I'm sure, I don't know what is the situation in the homeopathic side, But whenever we look into our system, of course, even MBBS also, they don't bother much. But the most important thing is that in any other allied program that they join our university, the first thing that the student will ask is, will I get a placement? So if you don't ensure that they get a placement, that means your program is not valid or your program is not taken so kindly. So that is one of the things that is there. So you should also ensure that you have a good placement cell. Now you have a placement cell and then you record and keep how many people are being placed. It's always correct to go 100% placement. There are two aspects of it when you're talking to student support system. One is to have whether you have a placement cell and whether whether the placement cell has helped the student in getting the required placement or not. And again, another aspect is to look at your outcome of the student or your teaching learning aspect is to see by how much the person is able to get. Means the package, okay, the average pay package that the person will get is another aspect that can be looked at. So higher, then it is better. So that means then the program is in much demand. So one aspect of it is to look into the placement. Then you have a guidance cell, as I already told you. Another aspect is for student support. Most of the students, when they come, the place is new, another thing. So what happens is you may have to have a grievance cell. A grievance cell can be there or something like that. So these all facilities have to be there. First important when you look at the student support system. On similar lines, you can also think of something new. Yes, when you want to look into a student support system, you can also look at something new. And then the only problem that what we hello, yeah, what we fail to do is that we fail to document all this. So all these aspects have to be kept. And when we try to apply for NAC, I think NAC puts into the 5 years. So we have to keep all these documents for the last 5 years. We have to record and keep. So that is the most important thing when we want to go for any accreditation process. Documentation is important in terms of all these things. How many students, how many students attended. For example, when you look at the welfare measures, how many students got fee concession, how many students were benefited by the coaching classes, how many students got health insurance or other benefits from the institution, and how many of them progression. When you look at the not progression, when you look at slow learning and fast learning, how many students were given extra support for fast learning and then support for slow learning. So all these things have to be documented, and that forms a major part of your student support system. So any questions? Okay. Next aspect of it is the student progression. Now, second part of it is student progression. One part, the student has come into the institution. So the support that is given by the student for his educational activities forms a part of the student support system. He may then the student progression. Student progression also is very important. When you talk about student progression, what all can we think of? When we think of student progression, anything? See, many a time we can add, when you talk about student progression part, we should be able to look at whether any value added bridge programs can come or any value added programs can be added into the system. You have a curriculum, that's no doubt, but over and above that curriculum, will it be good if the student will be able to get additional value added subjects? Can these educational aspect become complement with more value added programs, value added courses? So you may have those small 3 or 4 credit courses. Like say, I'll give you a simple example. In today's world, when you talk about computers and digital system and other things, students, specifically I'm talking about healthcare part of it, they will be, because I'm not talking about the latest generation of them, they are much better, but otherwise you see they are not so good at, let us say, using Excel or other things. Computer knowledge may be poor. So in such cases, what happens is you have to build a program for them and see that these are value added courses. They become very competent or handling this big program. It will help for their research part. That is one. Or maybe another thing is about the healthcare analytics. If you are in the healthcare sector, what happens is healthcare analytics is a very important field, or maybe health technology aspect, health technology assessment. So all these things, they are the newer domains that are coming out in the field. Something similar to that may be also there in relation to the homeopathic background. So the fact is that these are value-added services. This will help. These are value-added programs or which will help the student to, it will help the student so that tomorrow when he goes to the industry, he should not feel that, oh, these are things were not taught from. So because as I told, even though you have a curriculum, it may not be looking into the latest. So these are some of the things that go for student progression. Another important aspect is that how many of the students that who pass out of the program are going for higher education. That also is a thing. See, in our traditional system, what we thought is that the student comes, he joins, he's here with us for maybe 4 or 5 years, whatever it is, and at the end of 4 years, you wash your hands off from the student. But now with this NAC criteria or with the accreditation perspective, it says that you have to handhold the student not only at the time of, not just during the time that he is there in the organization or in the institution, but even after that. Okay. So it does matter to look into to see about his what happens after he passes out. Is he getting placement is one part of it. How many of them going in for higher studies? You have to keep in touch. And not only that, progression is also, you need to look into the other aspect to see you get feedback from the potential employers, okay, and other things. So all these aspects have to be recorded and kept. So this part, many a time we don't bother. Okay, after he passes his program and goes, we don't. So these are things they have asked. And specifically, when we want to go retrospectively, it takes around the last 5 years we need to identify. So this is very important. In most instances, I am sure what would have happened is that we do not have a good database, but over a period of time, computerized, so we are not going to find it very difficult now. We are able to trace them, okay, because of a lot of social media, file connectivity, and all these emails and other things. We are able to trace them, and we will be able to know what exactly, how many of them have progressed to higher levels. So that is also very important. Then you talk about student participation and activities. Now that is another important aspect is student participation and activities. We should encourage more and more students to participate. When we talk about student participation and activities, whether the institution has an environment conducive to make the students participate in various activities. So that important aspect is that we should ensure and see that we hold proper cultural activities and other things. Not only that, is not the local thing. We also should ensure and see that the students participate in national, and it could be sports, it could be any other cultural activities. They should participate in state level and national level games or activities, and ensure that participation is what they say. But if you have got a if they have got any credits, if they got any awards, that will add to the existing. So that also the organization should encourage, and it should keep track. Most of us, we don't keep track of all this, and then we don't really bother whether there may be a sports council, there may be a cultural committee, but we are not looking at all these things. How many activities, how many these medals or other things that they are getting. So all these are a part of student participation and activities. So that is, we have to encourage them. And then also the last one is about the alumni engagement. So when you talk about alumni engagement, all of us know that yes, students pass out and then there is, but unlike the, let us say, unlike the IITs or maybe the management institutes, healthcare institutions do not keep a track of their alumni. Okay, their alumni is restricted. Maximum, what if the institution forgets the student once the student has passed out of the institution. But that's not the thing. What happens is you need to keep a track of the alumni. Registered alumni body should be there. Okay, and the most important aspect of alumni engagement is how you are in touch with the alumni. Okay, and you should also ensure that the alumni come back and help the institution in a positive way. How can they help? Like you can say that they can participate in various activities. Okay, they can try to inspire the students. They can come and take part in guest lectures, participate in various activities, innovation activities, or various other student participation activities. All these things the alumni can get engaged. Also, another aspect is that they can also contribute in financial terms. So that also is there, because many a time students, alumni, they feel proud that yes, this institution has done something to me, so let me do something back. So that way, so monetary and non-monetary, both ways, whatever the alumni have done, you have to keep track of all those. So that is very important. Apart from that, it also says that the alumni association should be formed. If it is not there, it has to be formed, and then you have to also encourage it to be registered. The alumni association should be registered. So all these is very important, because they feel that alumni are also important when it comes to this accreditation process, because they are the brand ambassadors. They are the ones who give you the actual feedback. Let it be in terms of curriculum, let it be what they have felt, what they have missed during their educational time, and what is the correct industry. So they will be in a better perspective to add a lot of things to the existing system. So alumni engagement is also, it helps the institution to be nurtured by the alumni. Now, are there anything else anybody wants to tell more than this? Any of your thoughts you want to share in any of these 4 alumni student support and progression aspects? Yes. Did I make sense?
I have a question, sir.
Yes.
On this student progression, what is the method being followed at Manipal, sir, to track the students' progression?
Student progression is basically, we keep a track of how many of them are going in for higher studies. So, like say, once they finish a particular thing, because Manipal because we are talking about, and I'm talking directly under the university aspect. So, like, let us say, even at the KMC part of it, there are MBBS students who pass out of it, and then after that, how many of them are going for post graduation? How many of them are going for general practice or private practice? So, and again, further from there, some people may further go in for super specialization. So we keep track of that. That is what we look at the progression as. How many of them are qualified? Even those who participate in USMLE and other things, they are also competitive exams. So all these aspects are tracked. Now, different disciplines, I think it is different. Some, when we come to the other aspect of it, we are going to see how many students are going in for post PhD. We encourage our students to PhD. In fact, what has happened is the current method, what we have done here is, it's not only just MD, but we encourage, it's not a compulsion, but we also encourage our students to PhD at the same time. So they finish their MBBS, they come for MD program. Previously, it was only 3 years of MD program, but now we will tell them to take another thing, so that within 4 years or 5 years, they will complete, even they'll get a PhD. The main idea is that we inculcate a research feeling into this. That is very important.
They get the degree certificate. Once they leave the institution, we are not able to track, where they work or where they go for studies.
No. What happens is that is where the alumni cell will be able to help alumni, because once they pass out, in fact, what we have done is that when they get the clearance certificates and other aspects, we'll ensure and see that all our alumni get themselves registered. So once they register into the portal, online portal, then it will be easy for them to track, for us to track. But of course, it is again, it's a win-win situation, because we can't do much unless the alumni also get back to us with updating their contact details and the place of work and other things. So it will be easy to track for the first few years. After that, it is for them to get back to us and update us all the things. But what we feel is nowadays, not many, that at least some way we will be able to contact. And another important thing what we do is that, as far as alumni engagement, we have to hold this alumni get-togethers. So alumni get-togethers is one very good factor in which you can get yourself updated about the alumni. So they come and then they will help. So that in that way, what happens is we'll be able to keep in touch with the alumni.
Anybody has questions, you can just raise your hands or put it in the chat box.
I think some things are there in the chat box. Let me see. I am not sure whether
We have the feedback form and all
the chat
that.
box also. But
Actually, the student support, I really feel that mentorship should be brought under student support.
yeah,
Actually, they have taken it to teaching learning. Probably that should have been under student support.
which says student support. So student
No,
support
no.
is
Mentorship has been grouped under criteria 2 under teaching learning.
yes.
But actually, mentorship is something which the student is given support by
Mentorship
the
is important
faculty.
as a part of student support also.
Yeah, they should have grouped it under criteria 5 rather than 2.
But actually, I think there is a fine difference between what they say mentorship. There, probably what they mean to say is that the student, that the faculty should be able to mentor the students.
It's purely on academic.
But here, student support is a little different from that side, because there, what happens is when you talk about mentorship there, now in case the student is not able to, it's not the poor learning students. What happens is giving more support or mentoring the students in order to do, let us say, give a research focus or maybe something like that. That is mentoring, asking the student to do more. That is the teaching learning process when they're not able to. But here, student support is that trying to help them out if they are having any difficulties, one part of it. The other aspect is also to look at, there are some students who can do better. It means they are kept out and then they are given special encouragement to go for higher levels. So that way, I feel that's where the student support.
Any more questions? Otherwise, Sandy, we can.
Okay, sir. Should we wait, sir?
No, I think you can go for the vote of thanks. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I want to express my immense gratitude to Dr. G. Somo for agreeing readily, despite all your busy schedules and responsibilities, for giving us such a neat and clear session on criteria of high details. And I also would like to sincerely thank Dr. Gyanasekar, sir, for all the guidance and support in all the steps, and our principal, Dr. E. Ratna Sapapati, for his guidance. And I thank all the institutions, IQAC coordinators and staffs for your support. Special mention to Dr. T. Sudhakar and Dr. Varadaraj for their help in conducting this session. And I also thank Dr. Indrasekharan and IT department for all the technical support. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity given. Yes.
Welcome. Thank you.